The fires of 3 burning cities painted the night sky orange. Ambassador Kilsu stood at the observation window of his command center and watched his world die. The Mardon Empire had arrived 6 days ago with demands. When the Velen Federation refused to surrender, the killing began. Kilsu was old now, nearly 200 years by his people's counting. He had served the Federation for most of those years. He had negotiated treaties, ended conflicts, and built peace across dozens of worlds. But nothing in his long life had prepared him for the Mardon Empire. They were efficient killers. Their ships appeared without warning, destroyed military targets within hours, and then moved to civilian centers. They did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender once fighting began. They simply took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. Ambassador, we need to evacuate you now. His aide's voice was urgent. Kilsu turned from the window. How many ships do we have left? 4 cruisers. Maybe a dozen fighters. The aide's face was grim. The Mardon fleet has 80 warships in orbit. We cannot win. Then we run. Kilsu straightened his robes. Prepare my ship. Set course for the Galactic Council. 3 hours later, Kilsu's small vessel broke through the blockade. 2 Mardon fighters pursued, but his pilot was skilled. They escaped into faster-than-light travel just as enemy weapons locked on. The journey to the Council took 5 days. When Kilsu arrived, he found chaos. The grand chamber that usually echoed with diplomatic debate now roared with fear and anger. The Mardon Empire has taken 12 systems in 2 months, one representative shouted. We need to organize a defense fleet, another argued. With what ships? Half our members have already withdrawn their forces to defend their own worlds. Kilsu made his way to the speaking platform. The council speaker recognized him immediately. Ambassador Kilsu of the Velen Federation. Please speak, the chamber quieted. Kilsu looked at the hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy. My worlds are burning. My people are dying. The Mardon Empire does not seek territory or resources. They seek domination through terror. What would you have us do? Someone called out. Their fleet is 3 times the size of our combined forces. Their weapons are more powerful. We are losing every battle. Kilsu had expected this. He had spent the journey preparing for this moment. There are old records, very old, from before most of our civilizations reached the stars. They speak of a species that once helped maintain peace in the galaxy. Legends and myths, a representative scoffed. We need real solutions. The records are real, Kilsu insisted. Coordinates, star charts, even communication frequencies. They speak of humans. The chamber erupted in laughter and argument. Humans were stories told to children. Tales of impossible warriors who could survive any environment, adapt to any challenge, and fight with terrifying efficiency. Every species had similar myths. None of them were real. I volunteer to search for them, Kilsu said quietly. The speaker studied him for a long moment. You are serious? What do we have to lose? If I find nothing, we lose 1 ship and 1 old diplomat. If the legends are true, Kilsu let the possibility hang in the air. The council voted. Most members abstained. Some voted against wasting resources, but enough voted yes. Kilsu was given access to the oldest archives, star charts that had not been viewed in thousands of years. 2 weeks later, his damaged ship limped into a system marked on those ancient maps. Mardon fighters had found him 3 jumps back. His shields were failing. His engines were barely functional. His crew was dead. Kilsu broadcast on every frequency he could find. This is Ambassador Kilsu of the Velen Federation. I come seeking the humans. I come in peace. Please, if you can hear this, we need your help. Silence answered him. Stars burned cold and distant. His ship drifted deeper into the system. Then his sensors screamed a warning. Ships were appearing, not from faster-than-light jumps. They simply materialized from nothing as if they had been invisible. 10 warships surrounded him. They were like nothing Kilsu had ever seen. Smooth hulls with no visible weapons ports, sleek designs that suggested speed and power. And they were massive, each one twice the size of a Mardon cruiser. A voice came through his communications. It spoke in perfect Velen. Ambassador Kilsu, we received your message. Stand by for boarding. Before Kilsu could respond, a beam of light connected his ship to the nearest human vessel. He felt his ship being pulled inside. The docking bay was enormous. His tiny ship looked like a toy inside it. When the airlock opened, Kilsu stepped out on shaking legs. A human waited for him, tall by Velen standards with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore a uniform of deep blue with simple markings. "I am Captain Hansol of the warship Defiant Storm. Welcome aboard." The human spoke slowly, clearly. "You are safe here." Kilsu stared. Humans were real. After 3,000 years of silence, they were real. "Captain, we need your help. The galaxy is at war." Hansol's expression did not change. "We know, we have been watching." "Watching?" Kilsu felt anger rise through his shock. "You watched while worlds burned?" "Yes," Hansol gestured down the corridor. "Please follow me. You need medical attention. Then we will talk." The medical bay was clean and efficient. Human doctors treated Kilsu's injuries with technology he did not recognize. They were gentle and professional. In 2 hours, he felt better than he had in weeks. Hansol returned and led him to a conference room. "Ambassador, I need you to understand something. Humanity left the galactic community 3,000 years ago. We had our reasons. What reasons could justify hiding while innocents die?" Hansol sat across from him. "We were tired. For 2,000 years before we left, we fought wars. We protected species that could not protect themselves. We stopped aggressors. We built peace," he paused. "And every time we turned our backs, the peace failed. Species we saved turned on each other. Empires we stopped from one war started different wars. We realized something." "What?" "The galaxy did not want peace. It wanted victory. Every species wanted to be the strongest. We could not save the galaxy from itself." Hansol's voice was tired. "So we left. We built hidden worlds. We watched. We waited to see if anything would change." "And did it?" Kilsu asked quietly. "No." Hansol stood and walked to a large window. Beyond it, Kilsu could see ships moving in perfect formation. The Mardan Empire is just another name for the same old pattern. Conquer, dominate, destroy. "Then you will not help us." "I did not say that." Hansol turned. "The decision is not mine to make. You need to speak with Admiral Hijin. She commands our defense fleet." They traveled deeper into the human fleet's hidden base. Kilsu saw dozens of warships, construction facilities, and defenses that made Mardan technology look primitive. Humanity had not been idle during their isolation. Admiral Hyejin met them in her command center. She was older than Hansol, with silver in her hair and eyes that had seen too much. She listened to Kilsu's story without interruption. She reviewed the battle reports he provided. She studied maps of Mardan conquests. Finally she spoke. "Ambassador, I will be honest with you. We have debated intervention for 30 years. Every time the Mardan Empire takes another world, we debate again. Some of us believe we should act. Others believe the galaxy must learn to save itself." "And you?" Kilsu asked. "What do you believe?" Hijin was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the maps, at the burning worlds, at the casualty reports. "I believe that some things are worth fighting for. Not territory, not power, but the right of peaceful people to live without fear." She looked directly at Kilsu. "I believe humanity has hidden long enough." She touched a control panel. Across the hidden base, alert signals began to sound. "Captain Hansol, prepare your ship." "Ready the fleet." She stood. "Humanity is going back to war." The shipyards existed in a place most species would consider impossible. Hidden inside the gravity well of a brown dwarf star, protected by fields that bent sensor readings and visual light around them, humanity had built the largest military complex in the galaxy. Bo-Ram stood at her weapons station and watched through the observation ports as the fleet came alive. She was young by human standards, only 28, and this was her first real combat assignment. For years she had trained, practiced, and waited. Now the waiting was over. Excited? Subin appeared beside her. The pilot was even younger than Bo-Ram, with quick movements and bright eyes. Nervous, Bo-Ram admitted. "The legends say humans were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. What if we are not as good as the stories?" Subin grinned. "Then we make new legends." Around them, Defiant Storm hummed with activity. Crew members moved with practiced efficiency. Systems that had been dormant for years roared to life. The ship was waking up. In the briefing room, Dr. Tae Yang stood before a holographic display. Captain Hansol and his senior officers watched as the scientists presented intelligence on the Mardan Empire. "They fight with overwhelming force," Tae Yang explained. The display showed battle recordings from recent Mardan victories. "They prefer direct assault. They do not retreat. They do not negotiate once combat begins." "Predictable," Hansol observed. Very, but effective against current galactic military doctrine. Tai Yang changed the display. Most species fight defensively. They try to minimize losses. They retreat when the battle turns against them. The Mardon Empire uses this against them. They attack in waves. They accept losses. They grind down defenders until resistance collapses. What about their technology? Commander Jaehwan asked. The Marine commander sat with his arms crossed, studying the data. Comparable to other galactic powers. Energy shields. Plasma weapons. Solid armor. Nothing exceptional, Tai Yang paused. They have numbers. That is their real advantage. Numbers we can match, Han Sol said. What else? Their ground forces use standard energy rifles. Light armor. They rely on speed and numbers for planetary assault. Tai Yang looked at Jaehwan. Your Marines will be fighting opponents who have never seen kinetic weapons or heavy armor. Jaehwan smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Good. In the Marine barracks, Jaehwan put his troops through final preparations. Human Marines wore powered armor that increased strength and speed. They carried rifles that fired explosive-tipped rounds. They trained in combat doctrine that mixed ancient human warfare with modern technology. Listen up. Jaehwan addressed his assembled forces. The galaxy forgot about us. They forgot what humans can do. The Mardon Empire thinks they are the strongest military force in known space. He paused. We are going to educate them. The Marines responded with grim determination. They had trained for this. Their parents had trained for this. For 3,000 years, humanity had maintained its military readiness, waiting for the day they might be needed again. The human fleet assembled in formation. 50 warships, each one a masterpiece of engineering and military design. Admiral He-jin stood on the bridge of her flagship and looked at the fleet with pride and sadness. Pride because humanity had built something magnificent. Sadness because it would now be used to kill. All ships report ready, her operations officer announced. Ambassador Kilsu is aboard Defiant Storm, another officer added. He requested to observe the operation. Approved. He-jin touched the fleet-wide communication control. All ships, this is Admiral He-jin. 3,000 years ago, humanity chose peace through isolation. We hoped the galaxy would learn to resolve conflicts without us. That hope has not been fulfilled. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We do not return to the galaxy as conquerors. We do not seek power or territory. We return because peaceful people are dying, and we have the ability to stop it. We return because it is right. When we arrive at the Velen colony, we will give the Mardon Empire one chance to withdraw. If they refuse, we will remove them by force. Fight with honor. Protect the innocent. Show the galaxy what humanity stands for. All ships jump in 30 seconds. Mark. The fleet vanished from the hidden shipyards. For several hours, they traveled through faster-than-light space. Then they emerged at the coordinates Kilsu had provided. The Velen colony of Terrace hung in space before them. It was a beautiful world of blue oceans and green continents. But the beauty was marred. Orbital stations burned. Debris fields marked destroyed defensive platforms. And surrounding the planet, a Mardon fleet of 80 warships prepared to deliver the final blow. On the planet's surface, the last defensive command center received a communication from the Mardon flagship. This is High Commander Drax of the Mardon Empire. You have refused our generous offer of annexation. Your defense fleet is destroyed. Your orbital stations are gone. Surrender now or we will begin bombardment of your cities. The Velen commander looked at her staff. They were exhausted. They had fought for 6 days with no hope of victory. How long do we have? He's giving us 10 minutes, her communications officer replied. Not enough time to evacuate anyone. The commander sat down heavily. Send a message to the council. Tell them we fought as long as we could. Above the planet, Drax smiled as he watched his fleet move into bombardment positions. The Velens had been more stubborn than most. But the result was always the same. Mardon victory. Commander, we have multiple sensor contacts appearing in the system. His sensor officer suddenly reported. Velen reinforcements? No, sir. The signatures are unknown. Drax frowned. Put it on screen. The main display changed. Drax's smile faded. Ships were appearing from nowhere, not entering the system through normal jump points. They simply materialized as if uncloaking. 10 ships, 20, 30. The count kept rising. 50 warships, each one larger than Drax's flagship. What are those? His second-in-command whispered. Unknown. Drax felt something he had not experienced in many battles: uncertainty. On the surface, the Velen Command Center received a new communication. This one was not from the Marden fleet. Velen Defense Command, this is Captain Han Sol of the human warship Defiant Storm. Please stand by. We are here to help. The Velen commander stared at her communications panel. Did he say human? In orbit, Drax watched the unknown fleet arrange itself between his forces and the planet. The formation was perfect. The spacing suggested highly trained crews and advanced coordination systems. A communication came through. The voice was calm and clear. Marden forces, this is Captain Han Sol. This world is now under human protection. You will withdraw from this system immediately. This is your only warning. Drax barked a laugh. Human, there are no humans. They are myths. He opened a return channel. Unknown vessels, you are interfering with Marden Empire military operations. Withdraw or be destroyed. On Defiant Storm's bridge, Han Sol looked at Ambassador Kilsu. The Velen diplomat stood quietly, watching. They do not believe you are real, Kilsu said softly. They will. Han Sol looked at his weapons officer. Boram, charge all weapons. Zubin, launch your fighter squadron. All hands battle stations. Throughout the human fleet, the same orders were given. Weapons that had not been fired in 3,000 years powered up. Fighters launched from their bays. Marines prepared for potential boarding actions. Drax watched his tactical display. The unknown ships were not moving. Not retreating. They were just waiting. Arrogant, he muttered. Very well. If they want to die protecting these worthless colonists, we will oblige them. All ships, attack formation. Target the largest vessels. Fire on my command. The Marden fleet surged forward. 80 warships against 50. Drax had won battles with worse. Odds, all weapons locked on target, his weapons officer reported fire. The space between the two fleets erupted with light as plasma weapons and missiles launched from the Marden ships. On Defiant Storm, Han Sol watched the incoming fire with calm eyes. Shields. The human ship's defensive fields activated. The Marden weapons struck with tremendous force. Energy bloomed across the shields. Missiles detonated in brilliant flashes. When the light faded, the human ships remained. Their shields had not even flickered. Impossible, Drax breathed. Han Sol's voice was still calm. Boram, return fire. Show them what human weapons can do. Boram's fingers moved across her weapons console with practiced precision. She had spent 10 years training for this moment. Now her hands moved without conscious thought, selecting targets, calculating firing solutions, adjusting for the movement of both fleets. Railguns 1 through 8. Target the lead cruisers. Plasma banks 9 through 12. Target their destroyer screen. Fire when ready. The weapons officer at the next station confirmed her commands. Weapons locked, firing. Defiant Storm shuddered slightly as magnetic accelerators launched solid projectiles at a fraction of light speed. At the same moment, directed plasma beams lanced out from the ship's main batteries. The lead Marden cruiser never had a chance. The railgun rounds punched through its energy shield like it was not there. The dense metal projectiles tore through the ship's armor, through its interior and out the other side. Internal explosions rippled along the cruiser's hull. It broke apart in seconds. The plasma beam struck 3 destroyers simultaneously. Where Marden weapons created brief flashes against human shields, human plasma beams burned through ship armor like paper. The destroyer's reactors detonated almost instantly. In 4 seconds of firing, 4 Marden warships ceased to exist. Across the human fleet, the same scene repeated. 50 human ships opened fire. Marden vessels that had seemed powerful and threatening were destroyed or crippled with the first volley. On his flagship, Drax watched in horror as his tactical display updated. 8 ships destroyed, 12 more heavily damaged, and the unknown vessels had barely used any of their weapons. Return fire. All ships concentrate fire on their flagship. The Marden fleet responded with desperate fury. Every weapon that could be brought to bear targeted Defiant. Storm. The space around Han Sol's ship turned white with the intensity of the bombardment. Han Sol stood calmly on his bridge and watched the shields absorb the attack. Status? Shields at 92%, his defense officer reported. No damage. Continue firing. Boram allowed herself a small smile. The simulations had been accurate. Marden weapons were generations behind human technology, targeting their command ship. Permission to fire? Granted. She locked every weapon on Defiant Storm onto Drax's flagship, but instead of firing to destroy, she adjusted the firing solution. Precision shots, taking out their weapons and engines. We want them alive to carry a message. The next volley was surgical. Railgun rounds destroyed weapon ports, plasma beams melted engine assemblies. In 30 seconds, Drax's flagship went from a powerful warship to a floating metal box. Target neutralized, Boram reported. Minimal casualties on their ship. Hansel nodded approval. Good work. In space, Subin led her fighter squadron into the chaos. Human fighters were small, fast craft designed for speed and maneuverability. Each one carried weapons powerful enough to threaten ships much larger than themselves. Gold Squadron, this is Gold Leader. Subin's voice came through the communication net. Marden fighters launching from the carriers. Let us show them how humans fly. She pushed her fighters' engines to maximum. The acceleration would have killed most species. Humans had adapted their bodies and their technology to handle forces that others could not. The Marden interceptors came at them in tight formations. 20 fighters moving as a coordinated unit. It was good tactics for fighting other galactic powers. Subin scattered her squadron. Each pilot became an independent hunter. They did not fly in formations. They flew like predators, each one seeking targets of opportunity. She locked onto a Marden fighter and fired. Her weapons were not energy beams that could be dodged. They were high-velocity projectiles that moved too fast to avoid at combat ranges. The Marden fighter exploded. Gold 2. Splash 1. Gold 5, 2 kills. Gold 7. Got 3 on my tail, never mind, they are gone. The Marden interceptor pilots realized too late that they were not fighting a conventional enemy. Human pilots did not fly in predictable patterns. They rolled, dove, and accelerated in ways that seemed impossible. Subin came up behind 3 Marden fighters. They were focusing on one of her squadron mates. She did not hesitate. 3 quick bursts. 3 explosions. Gold Leader, 4 kills. In 90 seconds of combat, the Marden fighter screen was destroyed. Subin's squadron had lost no one. On the planet's surface, the Marden ground forces had landed before the space battle began. They were spread across the capital city, preparing to force the civilian population into surrender. Commander J. Juan stood in the dropship with his Marines as they descended through the atmosphere. Remember your training. These are civilians down there. We protect them. The enemy will be mixed in with the population. Precision fire only. I want no collateral damage. Yes, sir. 50 voices responded. The dropships landed in the city center. The rear ramps dropped and human Marines deployed. Marden soldiers watched in confusion as armored figures emerged. The armor was heavy, far heavier than any infantry equipment they had seen. Each human Marine looked like a walking tank. A Marden officer barked orders. His troops raised their energy rifles and fired. The beams splashed harmlessly off the Marine armor. The humans did not even flinch. Jae-Hwan raised his weapon. Suppressive fire. Drive them away from civilians, the Marines opened fire. Their weapons made sounds the galaxy had not heard in 3,000 years. Explosive rounds tore through Marden light armor. The chemical propellant and kinetic energy design was primitive by galactic standards, but primitive did not mean ineffective. A single round could punch through a Marden soldier's armor and the wall behind him. The Marden troops had never faced kinetic weapons. Their armor was designed to disperse energy. It did nothing against solid projectiles. The Marden officer tried to rally his troops. Then a Marine round took him in the chest and he fell. They are retreating, one of Jae-Hwan's sergeants reported. Let them run. Secure the civilians. Set up a perimeter. The Marines moved through the city with disciplined efficiency. When they found civilians, they provided protection. When they found Marden soldiers, they offered one chance to surrender. Most of the Marden troops chose to run rather than fight. In orbit, the battle was effectively over. Drax watched from his crippled flagship as his fleet fell apart. Half his ships were destroyed. The other half were damaged or fleeing, and the human vessels had barely been scratched. A communication came through. The same calm voice from before. Hi, Commander Drax, do you now believe humans are real? Drax said nothing. His hands gripped his command chair. Your fleet is defeated. Your ground forces are being neutralized. You have 2 choices. You can order a full retreat now. Or we can continue this battle until every one of your ships is destroyed. Hansel paused. Choose quickly. Drax wanted to refuse. Wanted to fight to the death, but he was not suicidal. He had lost battles before. He would report this to his emperor. They would return with more ships, better tactics. All Mardan forces withdraw from the system, he ordered. Emergency jump. Now. The remaining Mardan ships activated their faster-than-light drives and fled. Some were so damaged they barely made the jump. But they went. On Defiant Storm's bridge, Han Sol watched them go. Should we pursue? His tactical officer asked. No. Let them carry word of what happened here. Ambassador Kilsu stepped forward. His legs were shaking. Captain, I have seen 300 battles in my lifetime. I have never seen anything like this. Your weapons, your ships, your tactics. The legends did not do you justice. Han Sol turned to face him. This was not a great victory, Ambassador. We fought enemies with inferior technology and training. We had every advantage. This was... He searched for the word. Educational. We reminded the Mardan Empire that they are not the strongest force in the galaxy. What happens now? Now we wait. The Mardan Empire will report this battle to their emperor. He will have to decide if he wants to continue his expansion knowing humans will oppose him. Han Sol looked at the planet below. In the meantime, we will help repair the damage here. On the planet's surface, Velan civilians emerged from shelters to find human Marines standing guard. The Marines removed their helmets so the civilians could see their faces. Jae-Hwan knelt down to speak with a young Velan child. You are safe now. The bad people are gone. The child looked up at him with wide eyes. Are you really human? Like in the old stories? Yes. The stories say humans are scary. Jae-Hwan smiled gently. We are scary to people who hurt others, but we are friends to people who want peace. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread with impossible speed. The Velan colony had been saved. The Mardan fleet had been destroyed. And humans, real humans, had done it. In council chambers, aboard trading ships, in military headquarters, the same conversations happened. Humans were real. Humans were back. And humans were more powerful than the legends had suggested. Some species celebrated, some feared. Some began to wonder what humanity's return would mean for the balance of power in the galaxy. On the Mardan homeworld, High Commander Drax stood before his emperor and delivered his report. The emperor listened in silence. When Drax finished, the emperor spoke one word. Interesting. He looked at his military advisors. Send scouts. I want to know everything about these humans. Their technology. Their tactics. Their weaknesses. He smiled slowly. And then we will teach them that the Mardan Empire does not lose. The Galactic Council chamber had stood for 5,000 years. It was built from crystal and metal, designed to inspire awe and respect. Today it was packed beyond capacity. Representatives from 200 species crowded the space, with thousands more watching through communications relays. Admiral He Jin walked through the central aisle with Captain Han Sol on her right and Dr. Taeyang on her left. Every eye in the chamber followed them. Some looks were grateful, others were suspicious. All were curious. The council speaker, an ancient being from the first species to achieve faster-than-light travel, gestured for them to approach the central platform. Admiral He Jin of Humanity, Captain Han Sol, Dr. Taeyang. The Galactic Council welcomes you after 3,000 years of absence. He Jin bowed respectfully. Thank you, Speaker. We come not as conquerors or rulers, but as protectors of peace. A representative from the Korthan Alliance stood. Protectors? You disappeared! For 3 millennia while wars raged and civilizations fell, humanity hid. Now you return with weapons and power. What assurance do we have that you will not become the very threat we face? The chamber erupted in argument. Some agreed with the Korthan. Others defended humanity's intervention at the Velan colony. Yi Jin waited for the noise to quiet. You are right to be suspicious. 3,000 years ago, humanity fought wars across this galaxy. We stopped aggressors. We protected the weak. We built peace, she paused. And every time we succeeded, the peace lasted only as long as we enforced it. When we stopped one empire, 3 more rose. When we protected one species, they turned and attacked another. We realized we could not save the galaxy from itself, so we made a choice. We withdrew. We built our own worlds and hoped that in our absence, the galaxy would learn to resolve conflicts without outside force. Clearly, that did not work, the Korthan representative said bitterly. No, He Jin agreed. It did not. But neither did our previous approach work, so now we try something different. She looked around the chamber. Humanity will protect worlds that cannot protect themselves. We will stop wars of aggression, but we will not build your armies for you. We will not govern your worlds. We will not enforce your laws. You must do those things yourselves. Ambassador Kilsu stood from his place in the Velen delegation. The Admiral speaks truth. Humanity saved my world, but after the battle they did not take control. They helped us repair. They offered technology and training. Then they prepared to leave. They wanted nothing in return. Nothing. A representative from a small trade federation asked, "No territory? No trade concessions? No allegiance?" "Nothing," Kilsu confirmed. "They asked only that we work with our neighbors to prevent future aggression." The chamber fell silent. This was not how power worked in the galaxy. Those with strength took what they wanted. That was the natural order. Dr. Taeyang stepped forward. "If I may address the council, I am a historian. I have studied every major civilization in recorded galactic history. Do you know what I have learned?" He activated a holographic display. "Every dominant power follows the same pattern. Rise through military strength. Expand through conquest. Maintain control through fear. Eventually collapse when a stronger power emerges." The display showed civilization after civilization following this cycle. Humanity followed this pattern too. On our own world, we built empires and watched them fall. We fought wars and achieved nothing lasting. We learned, slowly and painfully, that true strength is not the ability to conquer. It is the ability to protect without dominating. Beautiful words, the Korthan representative said, but the Mardan Empire will not be stopped by philosophy. They have hundreds of warships, thousands of worlds. They will return. Yes, Heejin said simply. They will. Are you prepared to stand against them? The chamber erupted again. Some species argued for forming a unified defense fleet. Others insisted on neutrality. A few suggested simply surrendering to Mardan demands. Hansol watched and said nothing. This was not his arena. He was a military commander, not a diplomat, but he understood what he was seeing. Fear. The galaxy had grown comfortable with the status quo. The Mardan Empire was strong, but not so strong that everyone had to fight. Some could surrender. Some could hide. Some could make deals. Humanity's return changed everything. Now there was a force that could challenge the Mardan Empire, but that meant the galaxy had to choose sides, and choosing sides meant risk. While the council debated, the Mardan Empire prepared. High Commander Drax stood in the war room of the Imperial Palace. Around him, the Empire's best military minds studied the battle data from the Velen colony. Their ships are faster and more heavily armed, one admiral reported. Their shields are far stronger than ours. Their weapons appear to be a mix of advanced energy weapons and primitive kinetic designs. Primitive? The Emperor sat on his throne watching the analysis. Railguns, Your Majesty. Magnetic accelerators firing solid projectiles. The technology is thousands of years old by galactic standards. Yet it worked, the Emperor observed. Yes, Your Majesty, because their projectiles move at extreme velocities. Our shields are designed to disperse energy. They do nothing against solid mass at those speeds. Another officer spoke. Their fighters are superior to ours in speed and maneuverability. Their pilots fight individually rather than in formations. Our interceptors could not coordinate responses. And their ground forces? The Emperor asked. Drax answered this one personally. Heavy infantry and powered armor. Kinetic weapons with explosive ammunition. They fought with precision and avoided civilian casualties. They are well-trained and disciplined. The Emperor stood and walked to the holographic display. So humanity has better technology, better training, better tactics. How do we defeat them? The room fell silent. Finally, one of the older admirals spoke. Your Majesty, in direct combat we cannot match them. Not yet, we need time to study their tactics, develop countermeasures, build new weapons, and while we do this, we change our approach. Humans defeated us in direct battle, so we do not fight directly. We use tactics they may not expect. The Emperor smiled slowly. Explain. Humans claim they fight to protect the innocent. This is a weakness we can exploit. We attack targets they cannot ignore, force them to spread their fleet. Then we strike where they are weakest. You want to use civilians as bait? Drax said. I want to use human morality as a weapon, the Admiral corrected. They will not allow innocents to die. This limits their tactical options. The Emperor considered this. Interesting. High Commander Drax, you will lead this operation. Select 3 targets. Colonies with large civilian populations. Make it clear you will destroy them if humanity interferes. Force them to respond. And if they do respond, Your Majesty, then we learn more about their capabilities. Win or lose, knowledge is valuable. The Emperor returned to his throne, but also prepare for a different approach. Send word to our contacts in the neutral zones. I want information on human weaknesses, old grudges, past enemies. Humanity did not leave the galaxy because they were loved. They left because they were tired. Find out what made them tired. 3 days later, the Mardan Empire attacked 3 civilian convoys simultaneously. Medical supplies heading to plague-struck worlds, food shipments to famine regions, refugee transports fleeing war zones. The attacks were not full destructions. The Mardan forces disabled the ships, took some hostages, and then broadcast demands. Humanity claims to protect the innocent. Come and prove it. Admiral Heejin stood on her flagship and looked at the tactical display showing all 3 attacks. They were spread across the galaxy. Her fleet could not reach all 3 in time. It is a trap, Han Sol said. He stood beside her, studying the same display. Obviously, Heejin agreed. They want to divide our forces, learn our response times, test our capabilities. What are your orders? Heejin was quiet for a long moment. Then she touched the communication panel. All fleet commanders, we are responding to all 3 attacks. Split the fleet into 3 groups. Han Sol, you take Defiant Storm and 15 ships to the medical convoy. Hyun-hee, take your group to the food shipments. I will handle the refugee situation. Admiral, her tactical officer, protested. Splitting our fleet is exactly what they want us to do. Yes, but leaving innocents to die is exactly what they want us to do as well. Hyejin looked at her officers. We are human. We do not sacrifice others to protect ourselves. We respond, we fight, and we win even when the odds are against us. Han Sol nodded. He had served with Hyejin for 20 years. He knew how she thought. We will need to be fast, then be fast. All ships jump in 5 minutes. The human fleet split. 3 groups jumping to 3 different battles. Han Sol's group arrived at the medical convoy first. Mardan forces had the civilian ships surrounded. He recognized the commander's tactical style immediately. This was Drax, Captain Han Sol. Drax's voice came through communications. How predictable. You could not ignore innocents in danger. Release the medical ships and withdraw, Han Sol replied calmly. No, I think not. I want to study your tactics more closely. My fleet is twice the size you faced at the Velen colony. Let us see how humans handle a fair fight. Han Sol looked at his tactical display. Drax had 30 warships. Han Sol had 15. Not impossible odds, but not comfortable ones either. Precision fire risky. Admiral Hyejin stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched 3 battles unfold simultaneously on her tactical displays. Han Sol was fighting at the medical convoy. Hyun-hee was engaged at the food shipments, and Hyejin herself was approaching the refugee transports. Status on both other groups? She asked. Han Sol's group is holding but taking damage. Captain Yun-hee's ship has sustained critical damage. She is continuing the fight. Her operations officer paused. Admiral, Yun-hee's ship will not survive much longer. Heejin made her decision. Order all 3 groups to new tactics. Authorize Code Omega-7. The operations officer's eyes widened. Admiral, that protocol is necessary. Send the authorization. Now. Across 3 battlefields, human commanders received the same coded message. Code Omega-7 meant one thing, sacrifice protocol. If civilian lives could only be saved by sacrificing military assets, then make that sacrifice. At the medical convoy, Han Sol read the code and understood. All crew prepare for emergency procedures. Helm, I need you to trust me. Always, Captain. Han Sol guided Defiant Storm directly into the Mardan formation. Drax's ships opened fire at point-blank range. The shields began to fail. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Shields at 20%, 10%. Shields down. Energy beams and missiles struck the ship's armor. Explosions rippled through multiple decks. But Han Sol did not stop. He drove his ship forward like a battering ram. Mardan vessels scattered to avoid collision. Their careful formation broke apart. The civilian medical ship suddenly had clear space. Boram now. All weapons. With the Mardan ships scattered and confused, Boram had clear shots. Her weapons fired with devastating precision. One by one, Mardan warships lost their engines or weapons. They became floating targets. Defiant Storm to all civilian vessels. Jump now while you have the chance. The medical ships did not hesitate. Their faster-than-light drives activated and they escaped. Drax watched in fury as his trap failed. All ships, destroy that human vessel. I want nothing left. But the rest of Han Solo's fleet had closed the distance. With the civilians safe, they no longer needed to hold back. Human weapons fire decimated the Marden formation. Captain, we need to evacuate. Han Solo's damage control officer shouted. We have fires on 15 decks. Life support is failing. Han Solo looked at his crew. They were young, most of them. They had trusted him to bring them through this. All hands abandon ship. This is not a drill. Get to the escape pods, move! The crew moved with trained efficiency. No panic, no rushing. They helped each other to the evacuation points. Han Solo stayed on the bridge until the last person was gone. Then he walked to his own escape pod. Before he entered, he looked back at his bridge one more time. You served well, old friend, he said to his ship. The escape pod launched just as Defiant Storm's reactor went critical. The explosion destroyed 2 nearby Mardon ships that had been closing in for the kill. At the food convoy, Captain Yun-hee made her own decision. Her ship was dying. She knew it. Her crew knew it. But the civilian ships were still trapped. All crew evacuate to the auxiliary craft. Launch immediately. Head for friendly space, and Captain, you need to come with us. Her second-in-command pleaded. Someone needs to pilot the ship. I am staying, she smiled. Do not worry. I am not planning to die today. I am planning to live forever in human legends. The crazy captain who rammed a Marden fleet. Her officers hesitated. Then they saluted and ran for the evacuation craft. Alone on her bridge, Yun-hee set a collision course for the largest Mardon carrier. She pushed the engines to maximum. The ship was falling apart around her, but the engines responded one last time. This is Captain Yun-hee to all civilian vessels. Follow my ship through the gap. Jump as soon as you are clear. She did not wait for a response. She aimed her dying warship directly at the Marden formation and fired every weapon she had left. The Marden carrier tried to move. Too slow. Yun-hee's ship struck it at full speed. The collision was catastrophic. Both ships exploded in a fireball that could be seen from 3 systems away, but the gap was open. The food convoy ships jumped to safety. At the last second before impact, Yun-hee had activated her personal emergency transport. It was new technology, barely tested, a one-time short-range jump designed for desperate situations. She materialized in space, floating in her command suit. Around her, debris and fire. She activated her distress beacon and smiled. She had survived, barely. Yun-hee to Han Solo, you owe me a ship. At the refugee transports, Admiral Haijin did not need to sacrifice her vessel. She had the largest force and the most experienced crew. When she arrived, she did not engage the Marden fleet directly. Instead, she deployed a new tactic. Launch all fighters. Full defensive screen around the civilian ships. All warships, suppression fire. Keep the Marden fleet busy, but do not close to engagement range. Her fighters swarmed the civilian transports like a protective cloud. Any Marden ship that tried to approach faced dozens of human fighters. They did not try to destroy the Marden vessels. They simply forced them to keep their distance. Meanwhile, Haijin's warships fired from long range. Not heavy fire, just enough to keep the Marden forces focused on defending themselves. Admiral, the civilian ships are ready to jump, her operations officer reported. Execute. The refugee transports jumped to safety. Before the Marden forces could respond, Haijin's fleet jumped as well. The Marden commander at that location could only watch in frustration as his targets escaped without him landing a single effective shot. 3 battles, 3 different outcomes. But all 3 resulted in the same thing: civilian lives saved. Human forces had lost 2 ships and taken heavy damage to several others, but the mission succeeded. Admiral Haijin gathered her fleet at a rally point. She watched as rescue craft picked up survivors from the destroyed ships. Han Solo and Yun-hee both reported in safely. We won, her second-in-command said. But barely. Yes, Haijin agreed. The Marden Empire is learning. They adapted their tactics. Next time will be harder. What are your orders, Admiral? We regroup, repair our ships, and prepare for the next fight. She paused. But first I'm going to make a proposal to the Galactic Council. 2 days later, Haijin stood before the council once more. This time she did not come to talk about philosophy or humanity's role in the galaxy. She came with a plan. Honored representatives, the recent attacks proved something important. The Marden Empire is adapting. They are learning how we fight. They are using our morality as a weapon against us. The chamber listened in silence. We cannot protect every convoy, every colony, every world. The galaxy is too large and humanity's fleet is too small. She activated a holographic display. But we can teach you to protect yourselves. The display showed ship designs, weapon specifications, training programs. Humanity will share our technology. Not all of it, but enough. Enough for you to build better defenses, better weapons, better shields. In return, she continued, you will form a mutual defense pact. When one world is attacked, all worlds respond. The Mardan Empire relies on isolated targets. Give them no isolated targets. Ambassador Kilsu stood. The Velen Federation supports this proposal. We have seen human honor. We trust their guidance. Other representatives began to stand. Not all of them. Some remained seated, suspicious or afraid. But enough stood. Enough to matter. The council speaker raised his hand for silence. The council will vote on this proposal. But first, humanity must prove one thing. Admiral, you say you will not conquer. You say you will not dominate. But you ask us to follow your military doctrines, to use your technology. How is this different from Empire? Hyojin had expected this question, because we are also giving you the ability to resist us. Everything we teach you about fighting the Mardan Empire, you can use to fight humanity if we ever become the threat. We are betting that you will not need to. We are betting that shared strength creates lasting peace. And if you lose that bet, then you will have the tools to stop us, and we will deserve to be stopped. She looked around the chamber. True strength is not the ability to dominate. It is the ability to empower others and trust them to do the right thing. The vote took 3 hours. When it concluded, the speaker announced the result. The council approves the Mutual Defense Pact. Humanity will serve as military advisors and technology partners, but command of all defensive forces will remain with the council. On the Mardan homeworld, the Emperor received reports of all 3 battles. He listened without expression. When the reports concluded, he dismissed everyone except High Commander Drax. You lost again. The Emperor said simply, Yes, Your Majesty. The humans sacrificed their own ships to save civilians. We did not anticipate this level of commitment. No, you did not. The Emperor stood and walked to a large window overlooking his capital city. The humans are teaching the galaxy how to resist us. Soon every species will have better weapons, better defenses, better coordination. Your Majesty, we should attack now, before they become stronger. Attack with what? We have already lost nearly 1/3 of our fleet. Humanity has lost 2 ships. The Emperor turned to face Drax. No, we cannot win through military force. Not anymore. Then what do? We change. The galaxy is changing. We either change with it or we become irrelevant.